In 2025, an American school teacher had to ban a number, not a curse word, not a slur, a number, 6-7, said out loud in some classrooms, and a room full of 12-year-olds detonates into laughter. Like you just told the greatest joke ever written. And here's the punchline. Nobody can explain why. Not the teachers, not the parents, not even the kids doing it. So let me save you the suspense and answer the question right now. Why did Six 7 take over the entire planet? Because it means absolutely nothing. That's not the meme failing. That's the entire point. In 2025, Dictionary.com crowned 6-7 its word of the year. A word that, by their own admission, isn't really a word and doesn't really have a meaning. And the reason a meaningless number can conquer the internet turns out to be one of the most revealing facts about human beings you'll ever hear. So stick around, because this gets weird fast. Okay, if you're over the age of about 25, there's a good chance you've heard 6-7. Watched a child lose their entire mind over it and thought, am I having a stroke? You're not. You're just witnessing folklore in real time. But to understand that, we have to go back to where this thing actually started, and it's not where you'd guess. The trail begins, of all places, with a Philadelphia Joel rapper named Skrilla. In 2024, he released a track called Doot Doot, and buried in the lyrics is the line 6-7, I just blipped right on the highway. Now, what does 6-7 mean in the song? Honestly, not much. Skrilla himself has gone on record saying the meaning is intentionally fake, something he describes as negative to positive. That's it. That's the foundation. A rapper said two numbers on purpose that meant nothing in particular. And that should have been the end of it, except the internet found it. In early 2025, TikTok creators started slicing that 6-7 snippet into edits, and they latched onto basketball. Why basketball? Because 6'7" is a famous height. It belongs to NBA star LaMelo Ball, who is listed as exactly 6 feet 7 inches, 2.01 meters. So suddenly, 6'7" is playing under highlight reels, under player intros, getting remixed thousands of times. An overtime elite player named Talon TK Kinney started saying it constantly. The snippet was now a sound, the sound was now a vibe, and the vibe on the internet is basically a virus. But it still hadn't exploded yet. The explosion needed a face. In March of 2025, a kid named Maverick Trevelyan was at a high school basketball game when someone caught him on camera yelling, "Hey, 6-7," with this unhinged, full body joyful energy and a little up and down hand gesture. The internet took one look and went, that's him, that's the guy. They named him the 6-7 kid. And that clip didn't just spread the meme, it resurrected it right as it was starting to fade. One child at like one game relit the whole thing. From there, it became inescapable. It hit the hand gesture phase where you make a 6 with one hand and a 7 with the other, like the world's dumbest secret handshake. It hit the mainstream TV phase. In October 2025, South Park dropped an episode called Twisted Christian that referenced that bit over and over. The clip the show, posted on October 16th, racked up more than 1.3 million views in 5 days. And by the end of the year, a meaningless number had been named Word of the Year by an actual dictionary. Now, here's where most explainer videos stop. Haha, kids are weird, the internet is broken, brain rot, the end. And if that's all you took away, you're missing the actual mind bending part. Because here's the question nobody's asking. If 6-7 means nothing, why does it work? Why does nonsense spread between humans like a wildfire while perfectly meaningful information just sits there being ignored? To answer that, I want to take you somewhere completely unexpected. Not TikTok, a quiet house in the English countryside in the 1940s. There was a husband and wife team named Iona and Peter Opie. Peter was born in 1918 and Iona in 1923 and 1944 when their first child arrived. They got curious about nursery rhymes And that curiosity turned into one of the strangest, most beautiful research projects of 20th century. The Opals decided to study children's folklore, not the rhymes adults wrote for kids, the secret stuff kids make up and pass to each other, the playground chants, the nonsense words, the inside jokes, the rituals no grown up taught them. In November 1951, they did something bold. They placed an advert in Summer Times and got teachers across Britain to collect this hidden material straight from the children themselves. They interviewed thousands of kids, and in 1959, they published the results in a book called The Law and the Language of School Children. Here's why the book matters to a TikTok number in 2025. At the time, everyone assumed the rise of mass media, radio, television, comic books would wipe children's folklore out. Why would kids invent their own silly chants when the TV could hand them entertainment? The Opals proved the exact opposite. Kid folklore wasn't dying, it was thriving, mutating, spreading from school to school faster than any adult could track. Sound familiar? The Opals describe what these nonsense phrases actually do for children. Kids deploy them to cover an awkward moment, to fill a silence, to hide a feeling that they don't have words for it, to laugh at the absurdity of the adult world, to basically declare we have our own thing and you're not in. The ridiculous 6'7", a 12-year-old shouts in math class to make their friends lose it, that is not new behavior. That is a behavior anthropologists were documenting 70 years ago. We just gave it to a phone. So the perspective shift is this 6'7" is not a symptom of broken modern brains. It's one of the oldest things humans can do, running on new hardware. And once you've seen that, the psychology underneath snaps into focus. Let's talk about why your brain falls for it even when you swear you're too smart for this. There's a phenomenon psychologists call the mere exposure effect. The earliest research on it goes all the way back to Gustav Fechner in 1876, and the Polish American psychologist Robert Zajonc gave it its name in 1968. The finding is deceptively simple. The more often you're exposed to something, the more you tend to like it, even when that something is total nonsense. In his experiments, Zajonc showed people made up words and meaningless symbols, and just from seeing them repeatedly, people started preferring them. No meaning required. Familiarity alone breeds affection. Now drop that into TikTok. The algorithm shows you 6'7" once, then again, then 40 more times because you pause for half a second. Each repeat makes the phrase feel a little more familiar, a little more yours, and that's before you even decided whether you like it. The platform is basically a mere exposure machine mainlining repetition straight into your skull. You didn't choose 6'7", it was installed. But repetition only explains why it sticks. It doesn't explain why kids spread it on purpose. And that's the deepest layer. The word meme was coined back in 1976 by the biologist Richard Dawkins to describe a unit of culture that copies itself from mind to mind, like a gene but for ideas. And the memes that copy themselves best aren't the smartest ones. They're only the ones that do a social job. Saying 6'7" out loud is a test. If you laugh, you're in. If you tilt your head and ask what it means, you're out. You're an adult. You're a teacher, you're a parent, you're a millennial who still says doggo. The nonsense isn't a bug, the nonsense is a lock. And being it's on, it is the key. That's why 6'7" could mean anything. The second it has a clear definition, anyone can look it up and join. But a phrase that means nothing, you can only get it by being there, by belonging, by being part of the group that decided this is funny. As a password, and a password is gibberish on purpose, because a password that's easy to guess isn't protecting anything. This is the same machinery behind Kilroy was here. Little cartoon-faced American soldiers scribbled everywhere during World War II, popping up on malls, trash cans, and ships, meaning nothing, spreading everywhere, signaling one quiet thing. One of us, we're here. Same instinct, different century. We have been doing this forever. So let's zoom all the way out, because here's the part that I think is genuinely beautiful, a little moving. When we tend to look at a stadium of teenagers screaming a random number and see the decline of civilization, brain rot, kids these days, the fall of human intelligence, but the Opals, watching children chant nonsense in the 1950s playground, saw something else entirely. They saw cooperation, invention, imagination. They saw kids building a private culture out of nothing but sound and timing and the joy of a shared joke, a culture so alive that not even the rise of mass media could kill it. 6-7 is the exact thing. It's a generation reaching out to each other and saying, "This is ours." You don't need to understand it. You weren't supposed to. The whole point of an inside joke is that someone is on the outside. And maybe that's the real world of year. Not number, not instinct behind it. That deep, ancient, slightly ridiculous human need to belong to something, to have a secret with people, to laugh at a thing that isn't even funny just because your friends are laughing too. So next time a kid yells 6-7 and grins at you like you're hopelessly old, and you are, I'm sorry, try not to roll your eyes. You're not watching the internet rot anyone's brain. You're watching a tradition older than the internet, older than television, probably older than language itself, doing exactly what it has always done. You're just for once on the outside of it. And honestly, 6-7.